Hey everybody, and welcome to the McCroaks Late-Night Show with me, Toad McCroaks, and Agent Carl, my right-hand tortoise. So we have a very special show for everyone tonight. We've got two amazing projects, two amazing people here to represent them. Unfortunately, the great J.GrayDigital is out touching some grass right now, so we're gonna have to do our best without his insight. I think we can manage, and we wish him well on his adventures out to touch grass. But let's go ahead and get this show started. We're gonna bring out Nucker, who is representing Pina-NFT. Nucker, welcome to the show. It's so good that you're here, and I can't wait to learn about your project.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. It's I think this is great and love that you're doing a show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on to the show. I've been very interested in the project you have with Pina-NFT. It's a wearable, there's sports involved. So why don't you explain a little bit to our viewers what you have going on?
So we have a wearable that does motion analysis for sport. So, it comes back to the premise, the idea that modeling is the best way to learn anything. So if you copy somebody who's better than you at something, you learn faster, it saves you a ton of time and, a lot of effort, and it gets you further along than you would without it, right? And, the art world's known this for forever. So with the wearable, you compare yourself to 3D models of sport experts. Like their techniques captured also by the same wearable, right? Or a different one, but the same R's. So you put it on after, say, Steph Curry or somebody like that. We capture their shot, and then you put on the thing and do a basketball shot, and it compares you to Steph Curry and gives you real-time feedback on where you're different, right? So right now we're actually, the Web3 thing is an interesting journey. So we're currently selling to teams like university sports teams and club teams. And our growth model is actually based on focusing, like helping sport influencers monetize their social following. So like, for example, we've got like a baseball pitcher with 60,000 TikTok followers. He's talking about pitching, and his followers already learn from him. But if they go and practice, even though he gives great information, they don't know if they're doing it right or wrong, because it's a virtual experience, right? So now with the wearable, we put it on him, he does a pitch or whatever exercises he's doing, and then they can learn from him. They can put on the wearable wherever they are in the world, and they do a pitch and they get immediate feedback or an exercise, and they get feedback to know if they're doing it right or wrong. And then from the pitcher side, he sells it like as a virtual clinic on how to throw faster. So, instead of just monetizing for ads, he's actually giving followers what they really want, just how to do what makes him special. And then, it dramatically scales his expertise. So, because like most players, he's not making $5 million or $10 million a year. He's just trying to make it guy. But for, out of his 60,000 followers, 50,000, whatever it is, if he gets 500 people to sign up for his virtual class, he'll make over $100,000, right? So, it's a way to kind of help both ends of the spectrum, the player and the athlete.
Oh, very awesome. So is this something where both the parties have to have the wearable for it to actually work properly?
Yeah, and from that, from the beginning, we designed it to be actually three main things. One of them is made for a consumer, not an engineer. Because there are motion capture things that have been around for a while, but most of them are in labs, and they're really expensive, really hard to use. So it needed to be made for a consumer. Second thing was to make it publishable, like YouTube's publishable and Instagram's publishable and TikTok, obviously. So we wanted an expert to be able to create content on it so they could turn it into a business, right? And then the third thing, which is getting kind of to the core of your question, I think, is make it consumer price. So, for just a player in the middle of nowhere who wants to learn, the wearable itself will be cheaper than their cell phone. And we kind of think of it like buying a gaming console and then buying, content for games. So the wearable being the console.
That's really fantastic. So exactly does it incorporate NFTs with the wearables, with the sports agents, with the sports, with the consumers? How do the NFTs get involved?
It's interesting, and I think the more we've learned, it's been a fascinating journey for us. We kind of stumbled across NFTs from a friend who was starting with them over a year ago, and the more we sat back and thought about it, especially thinking about tokens, remember watching a video, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the Web3 guy for Andreessen Horowitz, and he said something like, Web3 is the perfect environment for a multi-sided platform. And multi-sided platform basically is us. We've got consumers, the owner of the player. We've got players. Especially if we go in with like a token, you've got three different people that are invested in benefiting from the platform, right? So what the kind of evolutionary goal is, we haven't launched any NFTs yet, and we're getting ready to in the relatively near future. And the first stage is a small batch thing aimed at sports organizations, sports agencies. We already work with a bunch of agencies, and we're talking 50 or 100 where they benefit directly from owning an NFT, like as in, we have a platform fee that we copied from Google and Apple, where it's 30% of their revenue is the cost of being on the platform. If they own one of these NFTs, that number is less. So they, financially benefit directly. And then kind of down the road, we'll do some things that are NFTs in a larger scale for the company itself. And also, which hint may translate to tokens, and I'll come back to that in a second. But also we'll kind of go forward with a similar model to other sports NFTs where, as we capture top level athletes and they're 3D, we can kind of sell their 3D as NFTs, help them sell it. But in that kind of second level of the company NFTs, the vision right now is to, as I suggested a minute ago, turn that into tokens that kind of go within the platform and benefit the platform itself. And what I mean by that would be, something like if a player practices 5 days a week, they get tokens. Or if they improve by X, they get tokens. Or if they win you get a high score in a game compared to a player's technique, they get tokens. And then they can use those tokens to buy more content, more classes, or exchange them out for Solana tokens, whatever. So that's kind of the overview general, and the intent was to start launching that in June, but after everything, the finances for everybody kind of changed a little bit, we decided to step back and make sure that everything we did was even more thoughtful and truly know that we're going to benefit anybody that decides to buy one of the NFTs.
I'm super bullish on the project. I'm super bullish on the idea. I love that you have a product and then you're refining your product to build a community around with NFTs and to help them benefit and prosper from the whole situation or the whole product that you are creating. I really love that.
Yeah, and our goal really, especially once we got to really understand the NFT community and Web3, our goal was, we're sitting back and we still kind of consider ourselves a little bit of outsiders because we weren't involved in the heyday earlier this year. But the goal is to kind of make a reason to drag regular people who wouldn't normally be ready for the NFT world or think they are, and drag them in and actually give them a reason to be part of the NFT and Web3 community.
I absolutely love the idea and the aspect of building a product that is focused on onboarding just as much as it is with the internal NFT community. That gets me really excited, and I know if J. Gray was here, he'd be super excited about it. But he's out touching some grass, so I'm sure he's having a great time. But he would be drooling over this conversation and super bullish on the onboarding and everything that you have going on.
I knew that's stuff that he liked. So
have you ever spoke with J. Gray?
No, I didn't know who he was. No offense, Jay, until I saw your first show.
Oh, that's fantastic! I love to hear that. You're definitely gonna have to speak with him sometime. Maybe we'll get you back up on the show and get J. Gray here with you. But you'll definitely have to speak with him. He's got a great brain.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, we all love Jay. So, Knucker, where can we find information on Pina-NFT?
So obviously our Twitter, Pina-NFT game, Pina Game NFT. I think I always forget it wrong. Pina Game NFT. You'll be able to see it all. And then our website is pina-nft.com. And we'll be rolling out some stuff. Right now we're focused on like university teams and clubs, like I said. But in the very near future, we'll be rolling out some baseball stuff, some American football quarterback stuff, and in basketball, where virtual clinics and things where, like I said, a general consumer can buy a wearable and then get content and actually learn from those players.
That's so terrific. So let me ask about a little bit of the tech. So you have the wearables. So how do the wearables get manufactured? Are they made in-house? How does that all happen? Is that something that the team has designed? Are you working with partners? Can you tell us anything about that?
That's a really good question. And first thing I would say is, if you get an idea like something like this, consider it very deeply before you decide to do it. So we've been working on this for over 4 years, and it's not just me. We've got great partners, manufacturing partners who are experts in sensor technology. They design sensors for like multi-million dollar machinery that make microchips and stuff like that. And we've been working through the project, getting it tested. It's a really hard problem to solve, to get sensors that are essentially, they're 9-axis sensors that are essentially dumb things that kind of know where they are but don't know where the other sensors are in the universe. So to get them to coordinate to mimic the motion of the body and be accurate in real time is probably as difficult or more difficult than it sounds. So in our own team, we have we have a partner who does kind of that part of it. In our own team, we have some folks who led 3 different billion-dollar projects at tech companies that you know of, and sport experts that have coached world champions in 10 different sports and things like that. So it's a really unique, interesting team.
Well, Knucker, that was fantastic. I really appreciate all the information you have provided us and provided for our viewers.
I think it has, huge VR and metaverse implications, right? Like really cool. And so I got to thinking, right? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, so maybe I could use this in like maybe one of those X-rated experiences and really spice things up in the bedroom. Maybe that's possible?
I think there's probably some applications on, one of the things down the road, copying from video games, is right now we standard avatar. We pump data through a Unity model, and so one of the things on the roadmap is to change, customize avatars and stuff like that. So I think the combination of changing avatars and integrating maybe some kind of VR stuff. There's probably something to figure out.
Be looking towards this project mooning.
How should I put this delicately? There's no censor on one necessary or specific appendage lend itself to Carl's question.
Maybe we
If
can
you follow me.
maybe we can get together and do some brainstorming. I like it.
For sure. Hey, that's how the internet made it big the first time was in porn. So I'm sure everybody knows that story. But why would we be any different?
Well, yeah. Historically, it has always been a good seller. But Knucker, thank you so much for coming out and speaking with us about Pina-NFT. I really appreciate it. I hope you've had a good time tonight. We're going to go ahead and ask Josh, the guild keeper, to come up. Josh, please come up, take a seat. Oh, well, you're sitting. Josh is a puppet. Josh has Puppets of Mayhem coming out. We're not going to get to talk about that much today, but just know that he's got a whole AI collection going on right now called Puppets of Mayhem, and it's a bunch of cute, half disturbing little puppet creatures that have been AI generated, and they look fantastic. You'll be able to check him out on his Twitter page. He's showing us great art every day with these Puppets of Mayhem. But Josh, we're here to talk about the Pixel Fighter Guild. So Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Josh, I tell you, it's an honor to have you on the show. I love everything that you're doing. Would you go ahead and please enlighten our viewers, enlighten us, and tell us about the Pixel Fighter Guild?
It's a rug. No. Oh man, no. So the Pixel Fighter Guild is a long gestating project from the 8th grade. It's weird to say that because I've been trying to figure out the best way to describe this going forward since I've had to retool it, kind of backstep a couple ways and kind of re-explore some different options that weren't costing me almost $25,000 to start manufacturing on. So essentially now the Pixel Fighter Guild's focus is it's a pixel AI project now. It takes on a story that I created back in the 8th grade with a friend of mine. His name was Alex. We created a tabletop game from the story itself. I've mentioned this before. The game never ever made it out of the 8th grade. It was never published. It never. I think there was maybe 6 kids that played the game for a lunch hour during the last semester of school. But the story always stuck with me because I'm the one that created the story and I was responsible for it. So fast forward to now, and I started the Pixel Fighter Guild at the beginning of the month, or at the beginning of the year rather, as a way to just kind of thank people for supporting me through being holders of my older work, and also for people that were that came and supported me when my wallet was hacked. That was a horrible, probably 3 weeks. But I kind of just made these pixel animations. I started off with making an invitation. The invitation turned into the custom core pixel fighters you have, or that people have gotten. And now I added a lore piece. So that's kind of where the story comes in from 8th grade. I created the Guild History Works as a way to start using and telling the backstory to the Pixel Fighter Guild. Skirmishes, quests, characters, all, major plot points within the story. So I took the story and kind of pulled little excerpts and these kind of things and elaborated to build these lore pieces within the story itself. Um, and I created the second, the partner or the companion collection to the Pixel Fighter Guild. And right now we're doing villains.
Josh, you have so much going on. It's amazing to watch, and you're out here every single day. You're showing us, you're entertaining us, you're being as transparent as anybody is in this space. I love seeing everything that you have going on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It sounds like it's a lot going on. It isn't now. So if from where I was 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, in terms of focus and, and where I wanted the project to go to where I'm at now is kind of a night and day piece, but still falls in line with the core idea of telling this story as a whole. And that's always something that's been on my mind, is to tell this story, whether it be through, continuing the tabletop game, through, a Mars Attacks like trading card collectible that's tied to the NFTs as a whole, to a video game. And now the Pixel Fighter Guild is a top-down adventure game. That'll have a very direct NFT correlation and input. So the first demo, like I've talked about before, and for those who don't know, the demo I'm working on right now is going to be 2 levels for the holders, are the early adopters, which are the holders that are in the Pixel Fighter Guild as core fighters, and then the guild history owners. It's just it's an evolution over the next, 3-5 years into a game that inevitably will get published, or the aim is to get it published on the Epic Game Store and be one of the, those first early blockchain games that Epic is, allowing to use that storefront, and by way of doing that, and utilizing the blockchain within the game itself. And one of the major goals I have is creating a marketplace for items that you get out of treasure chests. If you look at it like World of Warcraft, they have a marketplace where you can sell off all the stuff you don't need, that you think other people have. It's in that kind of case, but it's a little bit more focused and it's streamlined and watered down to just your epic gear, your legendary gear kind of marketplaces, or pieces as a whole. So if you find something, the legendary drop percentage right now I'm working with is less than, I think, 1.5% on that drop, and it's something you don't need, or something that doesn't fit for your build as the game progresses, you can put it up in the marketplace as that NFT and sell it off on ETH, not on Polygon, not on some kind of tokenization, and that kind of thing. But the idea here is to centralize the game on the story first. I've talked about this in the past in spaces about how we're missing a lot of the heart and soul of games when we're creating these Web3 games. Everybody focuses on tokenomics, these weird staking and earning, mechanics that never work, that never pay off, that, they create an entire tokenomics or a token that they use that, isn't really beneficial to anyone. It dies off in 6 months, but there's no story there. So for me, as an independent game developer, as a lone person, I want to be able to go, show everybody that as one person, I managed to show and be able to build a blockchain game that allows centralized player ownership for the things they're getting out of the treasure chest, and building a marketplace that allows them to buy, sell, and trade those within that context as an NFT. But that's what the Pixel Fighter Guild is now, and that's what we're building towards. The first phase is, building our characters, which the core fighters are that first portion. Villains are what we're working on now and what I'm building on now. Monsters are going to be afterwards. And then from there, the work will end up on the back end, building the game, getting the demo done, making sure all the animator controllers, hitboxes, all the things that go into the game, making sure the story's tight, is worked on. And then in February and March, I'm going to be launching a 200 200-piece collection. It's going to be kind of a one-of-one generative collection of Pixel Fighter sprites that'll be available to the public, and that's how the public will be able to access the game as well. There's a new rarity system in place for the new fighters in February and March that I haven't talked about yet. So I'll actually let you guys kind of mess around and hear it first. The way it's going to work is the rarity traits for the 200 that will be minted and dropped in February and March really are going to reward active users. So people that want to play the game are going to find themselves looking for the pixel sprites or the pixel fighters within that collection that have the trait, that fighter, or have a class trait, because those will be the ones that will be allowed to use. So what it is the system is an NFT collection that allows people to come in and hold a character that may be used as an NPC rather than an active character and still be able to enjoy the game, but not have to feel like they're, or not have a fighter, being used in that kind of sense and just be a passive supporter. Or the ones that want to be active players in the game and want to go for rewards and all that kind of stuff. They can go into the collection if they didn't mint one and find different class of fighters. If they want to be, a warlock, I think is, a warrior. I have new classes we're fleshing out as well. But there's new classes within those 200 sprites then. But that's what the collection is now, and that's what we're progressing towards for the future. There's a plan for the first year. There's a plan for the 3 years. There's a plan for 5 years, and even beyond that too. Progressing this into something that's going to be multiplayer and beyond.
I absolutely love the Pixel Fighter Guild. I've been a holder. I don't remember which number I was, but I was one of the early ones to get the Toady and Toad. I absolutely love it. It's still my most favorite NFT that I own to date. So, Josh, will you tell us? We all go through struggles. We all have trials during our experience here in the space. And one of the questions that I really like to ask people is, what has been your most challenging aspect of growing your project?
Being able to know when to give up an idea that really logistically will not work as a single artist and project runner. If I'm being honest, at this point for this 6 months, that's what it's been. Because for those that have followed me from the beginning of this project, at least not since last year, but from the project, you guys know I've had, tunnel vision on just one central idea. I really wanted to recreate the tabletop game from, the 8th grade, to elaborate, do all the other cool stuff with it. And now we're talking about something else. I wish I would have listened early on, when the advice came from, from people that know better than I do, I guess, and have a little bit more experience in both industries on that side of the fence. Had I done that, I'd probably be in a far better place and by what I mean by that is, progress rise. I'd been far ahead progress, for the holders and everything else. But I think that's been about the hardest thing for me at this point in time, has just been, knowing when to go give up an idea that just won't work out. And going, okay, it's okay to do that. There's another idea, you have on the back burner. Let's try that idea. Being one person sometimes and being passionate about something you've held on to for so long can kind of, skew your view on the way you see things against what the reality is and what the industry is really providing statistically. So that's been the hardest thing.
I love it. I really feel like there was some great life advice in that as well.
There's definitely is. I mean, I'll tell you, a lot of the advice that I recently got has been kind of in that sense, like you said, that life advice kind of thing, but it's coming from the weirdest place ever. It's coming from my current class teacher at the moment. This dude is wild, man. If I I've learned already a ton from the class, mind you. But even if I didn't learn a single thing, I'd still learn something from this dude. He's kind of like the dude from the Big Lebowski mixed with like Steve Jobs in what I could only be convinced was like an early 1970s, Steve Wozniak kind of thing. It's really crazy, but he's awesome. He's given tons of advice and he's helped us out. I think there's 12 of us in this class now, and individually he's helped each one of us out on, getting our vision straight, getting our focus down. So the money that I've spent in the beginning, I thought maybe I was going to get rugged by some kind of weird stoner, but so far, man, it's been one of the best things I've done.
Josh, that's so awesome. I remember when you were first getting into the class and you was kind of weary about it, didn't know if it was going to be a rug and I love to hear that it's grown into something to where you're learning more than just the game aspect of it. And for those of y'all that don't know, the Guild Keepers actually brought in a consulting company before to help kind of rein in some of the ideas and get the focus going where it kind of needs to be. So I really love the aspect that you can take both of these interactions and combine them together and come out with your own plan that is able to work with you. It's absolutely fantastic.
Me and the teacher, obviously have a good relationship. The consultation firm that I worked with was like you mentioned, was definitely the rockiest bit focus wise, but coming back, having the refocus, and taking the advice that they had, resitting down, having a couple additional meetings, and pay. I paid a little bit more on the contract to have a couple additional, I guess they're kind of like exit meetings, so to speak. And having that further discussion down the road really helped, because when I hit class and we talked about, what our focuses were, what we wanted out of the class, it almost seemed like there was the second half of that, of the consultations kind of advice and where the focus needs to be. That second half of that focus kind of ended up being from the teacher, and kind of pairing them both and going and finding my way between both of those kind of people, going, hey, these are the things, with what you have lore wise, what you've built, your ideas, what you have there, these are what you should be doing. These are the things that are going to be more successful, more viable in the long run. And I got that from both sides. It was just, one side was the peanut butter, the other side was the jelly kind of idea, I guess.
Josh, I think you're a great inspiration to the whole space with your mindset and your goals and how you approach them and work with them. I absolutely love it. I'm super bullish on it. So, where can people find out about the Pixel Fighter Guild?
Funny enough, you mentioned, after kind of doing the reorganization and everything, yesterday I posted, I made the Pixel Fighter project overview post on Mirror XYZ. I did have it pinned, but it should be near the top of my timeline currently. If you want it, just let me know and I'll be more than happy to tweet it out to you or DM it, however you want. But yeah, that has an entire overview of what's currently going on, what's happened, the history of the Pixel Fighter Guild, and also what's coming up and what to expect. So you can find that all there. There's a Discord as well. Not that well ran, I'll admit, but it will be getting better, over the next couple of weeks as, I get a little bit more free time between the villains and the monsters.
So do you have a website to go with that, or is it just the XYZ post?
The website right now won't happen for a little while. The Mirror, that's why I did the Mirror XYZ post. If you guys aren't familiar with what Mirror XYZ is, it's basically a blockchain blog post. What you post there, you literally, your wallet's attached to it and it gets minted on the blockchain. You can actually collect the post too, surprisingly enough. But no, that's the reason why I did the Mirror XYZ post. I'm holding off on the website as a whole for the moment. As I navigate through, the later portions of the game, getting ready to finalize it, render, a lot of it's going to be done in like WebGL, that kind of thing, because the DApp SDK that I'm using for the game itself requires a WebGL setup. So with that being said, I'm going to have to explore some website options overall. I don't want to jump into something that I'm going to have to backtrack from, that isn't going to be able to support what I need it to support for the game itself. And then I also have to talk to I have to reach out to Epic as well. I have a couple questions about their process, and if there's anything underlining that hasn't been updated concerning blockchain games then as well, because I want to get that information. Because I have a feeling that while the EULA is probably updated, the backend submission for blockchain games, I don't know is just yet. So I have to reach out to them and find that out as well.
Yeah, that's truly epic, right? Yeah, epic. I'm sorry. Horrible Toad joke. Carl, why don't you, I know you have a question for the guild keeper, so why don't you go ahead and ask?
I absolutely do. Pixel Josh, what's up, man? How's it going?
How you doing, Carl?
Another glorious day, man. So I do have a question, but first, I gotta say I love your art, your project, what you're doing. I love being a Pixel Guild history piece holder, because that's a really good art in my opinion. Thank
you. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah, and I love the intent, and I like where it's going. And I know it was brought up before, but I gotta know: will being a villain exclude me from being a hero?
No.
No. Okay.
So, no, not at all. So, when the game's finally done and the final parts, in the full completion of the game itself, and you'll see it as new builds come out for the game, as we're working through demos and alphas and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The idea will have that when the DApp hits and it hits your wallet, checks it, the character select screen will let you pick between both.
Oh.
And being a villain. Right. So being a villain, though, is going to have its own set of rules, though, within the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a more complex setup. That's why it's going to come later on. I still have a lot to get done first before I can start kind of working my way into, that alternate universe playability with villains. It'll be something that's on the list as we look at, or as I look at. I keep on saying we, and it's just fucking me. Excuse my language. I know it's kid though.
Well, the holders are looking at it too, right?
Yeah. Going forward, though, it's on the list as I look to implement multiplayer. Multiplayer is something I feel strongly about, and I think a good cohesive multiplayer, even if it's like a couch co-op within the Epic Game Store, would be really cool for a handful of people to get together. I pull a lot of inspiration in that sense from like Diablo. With that kind of 4-player co-op is kind of what I'm looking to inspiring wise, but still keeping the charm and fun of that pixel, the sprite game that Zelda is, that
yes.
Stardew Valley is, that kind of thing, and that's where that's why I'm building it the way I am, is because I love those games. So yeah, at some point you will be able to play between your villain and your fighter. But for the moment right now, we're going to focus on just the fighters and villains. Your villains will actually be in the game as AI villains. So I'm going to be creating them with move sets and stuff like this as they're being implemented in the game. And I'll be using the AI system via Unity to give them a means of movements, and attacks. So that way other fighters can still engage with the villains you guys got to create.
That's awesome. And again, I am 100% stoked about this. This is a really cool thing you're doing, man, and keep it up.
Thank you. This is the first time I've mentioned a lot of this stuff. I No offense, Toad. I really am sorry. Up until earlier today, I've been so busy. I absolutely been focused on getting work done. Well, Toad got the exclusive on a couple new things, and where the game's headed and, what the outlook is down the road. So there you go.
Josh, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a huge honor to have you on, and thank you for being a good sport and answering all of our questions. I look forward to what your project, the Pixel Fighter Guild, and everything else that you have going on is going to do. And don't forget to check out the Puppets of Mayhem. We didn't get to speak on that, but remember, it's out there and you can see it on his Twitter. And Knuckers, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to hear about Pina-NFT and everything you have going on with the wearables. I look forward to your future as well. I'm super bullish on the tech, and I'm super bullish on the approach that you're going. I can't wait to see what happens with both of these two amazing projects. Thank y'all both so much for being on the show. Now I want to give a big shout out at PatHoliday15 on Twitter. Check them out. They just won the NFT vote off from Pablo Knight. You can see all the great artists who participated in the vote off at pabloknight.com. And I'm sure Pablo Knight is going to be having a vote off coming soon for this month. So be sure to follow at Pablo Knight 10 on Twitter, and follow our guests here tonight, and follow at Pat Holiday 15. Congratulations again. Your artwork is really amazing. It's very vibrant. I love the piece that you submitted for the vote off. And this is when we close the show. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming out and watching. Remember to follow everybody on Twitter except for Carl. Screw Carl. Just kidding. Go follow Carl on Twitter. That's it. That's a wrap, everybody. Have a good night. Toad love.